you're looking for a big project that looks really impressive, then this is for you. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and today I'm going to be looking at this big kit. This is the Italeri Fiat 806 Grand Prix car. This was the first Grand Prix car that Fiat ever made, and it was also their last, which is interesting. So let's have a look inside. It's one of their big 1/12 scale kits. It's quite an early kit. I'm pretty sure this would have been an original prototype kit, but it's been modernized and enhanced by Italeri. It's got some Photo-etch bits in it now, which the original wouldn't have had. And it's quite a nice looking car too. So this is from 1927. Okay, let's have a look at the box art. So there you go. Very nice box art. It looks quite photographic of a real car, but actually after they ran these in 1927, all of the cars were destroyed. So that is actually a photo of the finished model. It looks very impressive. All right, so on the sides, we've got some more angles. Okay, overall length is going to be 30 centimeters. A little bit of photographic evidence of the actual car as well. And then on the opposite side, we've got some of the extra bits that's included. There's the box of little bits and pieces, lots of screws, vinyl tubing and such. We've got some clear parts. Photo-etch, that's a new part. You've got the numbers. This is actually stencils or masks. And then there's also decals as well. All right, let's have a look inside and see why this is such a nice kit. All right, so if we open it up here. All right, so this is very standard of some of the big kits. They've always got this little box here with all little bits and pieces. More special bits in the box here. We've got bodywork, and then we've got all the rest of the parts. So let me just move it to the side and we'll have a look at these parts one at a time. All right, so here's our box of bits. I mean, there's lots of screws. There's probably hundreds of screws and nuts here. There's some spring material. You've got vinyl tubing for all of the hosing and plumbing on the engine. So at this time when they were doing this F1, the engine sizes were restricted to 1.5 litre. Even so, there is a lot of detail within the engine. Screws for all of the chassis components and such. You've got some fine copper wire as well. And there's sheets there. That's probably material to be used for the seat belts or harnesses. Okay, so that's that there. Next we have a look at the bodywork. All right, so we've got the main cockpit there molded in one piece. And then we have the engine covers on two pieces. You notice that a lot of these early kits have very, very thick sprue. So when they're attached to the components, you need to be very careful to actually cut this away. So you've got a little bit of sprue remaining, so you can carefully clean it off. And you see that these particular vents are also, saw them on this side, they actually go all the way through. Some of them may not be fully cleared, so if not, they just need a little bit of light cleaning with a blade or a very fine chisel. Okay, so that's the bodywork there. All right, move that across. All right, we've got the manual here. It's quite thick. I'll put this over here. We'll look at that at the end, like I do with my usual unboxings. All right, we've got a selection of rubber parts. So here we have the seat. Not sure how far I can take it. You will be able to see some leather texture on it as well, which is very, very nice. Okay, so you see how this seat sort of folds up. We also have spark plug leads, which are molded, and being the rubber, they're very flexible. And then there's all these round segments here, and the round segments are parts of the shock absorbers. They're the friction dampers, so they're also jam-packed together with multiple plates. So it reduces the springiness of the suspension. Okay. Got a large section of chrome parts. See all that glistening. So what I can tell is we've got the base of the cockpit, two sides of the fuel tank, which sits in the very, very back, the grille, which is very, very fine. But then you have engine components all the way around here. So you've got fuel intakes, cam covers, and wheel knockoff hubs as well. You'll see all the rivet detail which is in the sides of that fuel tank. Now I used to dread chrome parts in the past because when you had to join parts up, you always have this gap that you can't clean up. But nowadays when you've got some very good quality chrome paint, it replicates this particular chroming very well. So even if you do a slight sanding of this and a filling, you will be able to touch it up. It'll be very close. Bearing in mind that with aluminium panels like this, they would have been quite patchy in finish anyway. So you can apply a different tone of aluminium across here and then across your joint, and it wouldn't look out of place. Okay, from there we've got this bag of sprue of the chassis rails. Okay, that's the lower sprue here. We've got the chassis rails here. There's components of the rear drive. So there's a diff section here, center drive. Looks like there could be some push rods here for the steering. More diff parts. Let's see on the bottom here. Mainly chassis components. There's all clamps here which would be for the suspension because this will have working suspension from memory. And with the clamps they'll be screwed together so that there'll be some give to allow for movement. Okay. Over here, again, it's probably going to be hard for you to see because there's multiple sprues all in the one. We have this section of black sprue. We've got the brakes in here, the circular items. And then along the sides, we've got the exhausts. There's other grills and then other engine components. On the back of this is some silver components, and these are all of the engine and gearbox castings. They already have a cast look about them. I don't know if that's the actual finish of the plastic that's been injected, but it does have this sort of matte, rough finish, which is good. It always helps. Okay, so you can see your big components there for the engine. And then you've got the cylinders here. Sump. Okay. Right, from there we've got some more body parts. Okay, so this is the base of the chassis. This is the wind deflector, which is just in front of the driver. This looks like the front grille. So I'll be sitting like this, and you have the chrome grille sitting there. And that's the back aerodynamic aid behind the driver as well. Okay, from there we've got some tyres. These are rubber tyres. There's 4 in the packet here. And you can see how thin these F1 cars had the tyres. They're basically, these are even thinner than motorcycle tyres of modern day. But this particular car could reach a speed of 240 kilometers an hour, which is amazing in 1927. And these particular tyres have some very good detail on the sidewalls. Tread detail is very good as well. Not sure if there's any writing on the walls. They're probably clean, I'd suggest. They look clean. Okay, they're very nice. And then we have a section for the wheels. Now, these had the spoked bicycle looking wheels. And to get that look, you need multiple pieces to achieve that. So that's why there's so many of these circular sections here. And they'll be stacked on top of one another to get all that depth. Okay, so that's all the main plastic components. Let's see what else we've got in this box. Okay, so actually this box that got me all excited is actually empty, so there's nothing to get excited about that. But there is this part here, which is quite specific for this more modern iteration of the kit. The Photo-etch is all new for the modern kits from Italeri. So we have a wood grain finish there, which would go onto the base of the cockpit, the flooring. This could be a deflector, I'm not too sure yet, actually. We'll check in the manual for that. You have your dials for your instrument panel as well. On this side we have the decals. A bit hard to see, but they have all the white numbers and such. Clear parts are pre-cut on this sheet. And then there's some masks there as well, in case you want to paint the numbers. Okay, Let's pop all that there. And let's have a look at the manual. All right, now I might zoom in on this a bit because it's pretty small. How's that? That looks all right. Okay, so again, we've got our box art picture on the front, which is really clean. Nice empty void space. Okay, so as we open up, there's some photos for reference of the actual machine and some reference photos of an actually finished kit as well. Multilingual. Get to the point here where there's the description and all the dimensions of screws you're going to be using, so you don't get them mixed up. Over here it talks about the leather sheet, which we found before. And then there's a guide on all of the components. So there's the A sprue and what you're going to find there and all the numbers. And it goes through each sprue here, just so you recognize where the part is and how to use it in the future. There's the wheels. You've got there the rubbery bits with the spark plug leads, tires, Photo-etch, stencils, and you've got your clear parts. Okay, so you start off with section 1 is building up the chassis rail. Certain items here, you'll see there's a big don't glue. So these are items that are going to be rotating in that particular component. The floor gets fitted to the chassis rail. You start building the floor of the cockpit. Those sub-assemblies are put together onto the chassis rail. Now there's these links across here, these cross links. That'll be supports for the engine. Start getting into the gearbox. So there's the gear shift lever. Got a little spring there as well for detail. Gearbox casing. And then we start building the engine. So you can see how many components are in the engine there. It's got 2, 4, 6. Okay, so that's a 12 cylinder. So 1.5 litre 12 cylinder. It's amazing that 1.5 litre has been quite a popular size for the engines, and it's still carried. Do they still use 1.5 litre? I've got a feeling they do. Okay, and then you continue adding all the bits and pieces on the engine. You've got your plumbing or your cooling. There's the spark plug leads going into place. Going onto the split steering wheel, you've got the big cross beam there, which is quite popular in these early cars. Got the clear here, which is that shield around the steering wheel. It goes on the steering wheel boss. And you notice here that the rack and pinion of the steering wheel is actually geared, because that's actually going to work. So you're going to have working steering as well. So you've got your steering rack, that's all going into place. Then you start making the rear drive axle. Okay, so you've got your gearbox going together. So it doesn't actually have a working diff, but it's got the independent shafts there. You've got the leaf springs going into place. That is attached to the chassis wheels. So there's 4 pieces of the wheels to make up the spoke system. You see here where I was looking for the writing on the wheels. So they're actually decals. So you stick them on. So they're Pirellis. Over here, this is where the masks come in handy. So you can either use the decal, or you can use a mask for spraying on the 15 on the radiator. Spray paint will look better, obviously, because it's going to have that slight overspray, which you do see on normal sprayed radiators. This is the construction of the dampers. So the friction dampers have got those rubber sections, and this is all screwed together so that they're actually going to work. Okay, so they're all screwed together. This is the front strut. You got the radiator cover, and the grille going together. It's all on the front end. You've got the leaf springs with the friction shocks, and that's all hanging off the front end. Fuel tank going together with the fuel line. And then there's that section of spring where it gets stretched and then attached onto the brakes. Over here you've got a lot of this going together. So this is the main chassis. You've got the tank going in the back, and then you've got the brakes. Your wheels going on with the knockoffs, holding it together. So the knockoffs have got a nut on the inside. Same thing with the rear end. And then this is the instrument cluster with the 3 cables attached to each instrument. Putting up all the other bits and pieces. So here we've got the crank for starting. And this is the point where we start dropping in the engine. So it looks like there's a particular method of getting it in there smoothly so that everything attaches. So all the plumbing needs to match, which is already on the chassis. Preparation of the engine covers. So either use a decal or use the master spray paint. Over here, the seat's getting put together with the aerodynamic aid at the back for the driver. There's a front aerodynamic shield going on the front, instrument cluster going in. You've got the exhaust covers, I think they're exhaust covers on each side. But then you have the main bodywork going over the top of the chassis. The engine covers, so the engine covers are actually hinged in the center, and they've got little spring-loaded retainers as well. And then, there you go, that's finished. And then there's some beautiful photos here of the actual model. So you can see how much detail is within the engine. The detail around the steering wheel as well. So you see how it's been wrapped. So you get the material inside as well. There's the aerodynamic aids, front and back. Clear windshield. And that's it. So, what a beautiful kit. Okay, so that's the Italeri 1/12 scale Fiat 806, which was the first F1 car for Fiat in 1927, and it was also the last. So in 1928, they were all scrapped. So beautiful looking machine. It was a front runner in its day. Had a lot of cutting edge technology of the time and had a very powerful engine as well, capable of 240 kilometers an hour. So if you're looking for a big project that looks really impressive, very vintage feel, then this is for you.